As we come upon the anniversary of the Million Man March, filmmaker Spike Lee focuses on the lives of the men who traveled to Washington with his new film, Get on the Bus. This film, made for $2.4 million, was financed by a small group of men, including Danny Glover, Wesley Snipes, Will Smith, and Johnny Cochran. Joining me now, filmmaker Spike Lee. Welcome back, sir.
Glad to be here, always.
It's always good to have you. Can we just talk a little bit about baseball before we talk about Get on the Bus? Yankees. I mean, you brought your cap. That's why I'm bringing this.
I brought my cap, and game one
you were
was...
wearing it, and I asked you to take it off so that we could see you.
I had tickets for game 1 and 2, but it rained for game 1, and
game 2, you're here with me.
So,
yeah.
That's, you know, I missed game 2 for you, Charlie.
Well,
so,
I appreciate that very much, yeah.
And but I do hope the Yankees beat, I think they will beat the Orioles, and they go on to win, to beat the Braves in the World Series, because I think the Braves will beat the Cardinals.
Jackie Robinson. Rachel has a book out now.
Right.
She's a wonderful woman.
She was on the show?
Not yet, but she will be.
Good.
I promise. You wanted to make a film about...
Yes, we wanted to, and the film got put in the turnaround, so it's like in limbo now, but hopefully we'll get it made.
And this was one of Turner's companies, or?
Yes, Turner Pictures.
Yeah. So are they going to make it?
No, they said they weren't going to make it.
I said they're not going to do it, so then you had to go find somebody else to make it.
It costs, you know, a pretty penny, so we'll have to try to raise the money for that.
Yeah. This is a Denzel picture, I hope.
Well, you know, he was interested before, not so much anymore. I think he says he's too old to play Jackie, but we'll see. I think we'll get this film made. I really feel that.
I mean, there's no justice in the world if you can't make a film about the life of Jackie Robinson, is it?
Well, we want to make it right, and we feel it's epic, and epics cost money, and we don't want to make the cheap, low-budget version of a great American's life.
What makes you think it's a commercial venture?
Well, I just feel that this is a piece of American history, and Jackie was a pioneer. I think this is a film that would appeal to people who aren't even who weren't baseball fans, because he was a very heroic and courageous man.
And he's also a strong personality.
Strong personality, and that's always, for me, what the people want to see heroes, and films have always been made about heroes.
This film. Why'd you make it?
Get on the Bus. This film happened kind of strangely. A producer, his name is Barry Rosenbush, was sitting home one night in L.A. watching the news, and had a segment on about a group of African-American men who just returned from D.C.
Men from Los Angeles who traveled to Washington.
On a bus. They went as strangers but came back as friends, and he got the idea this would be a good idea for a film, and he called his partner Bill Borden, and Bill Borden called Reuben Cannon. And the reason why they got Reuben aboard is because both of those guys are white, and would be problematic for them to try to do a film about the Million Man March without some type of involvement from African-American males. And then the three of them got together, and they called me and said, would I be interested? And they flew to New York, and I met with them, and I said, let's do it.
And why'd you say, let's do it?
I felt that it was a movie. I felt that it was a dramatic story. I think it's something audiences would like. I also felt that this was a great event in American history. At the same time, we did not want to recreate the march. I felt the drama would be what happens with this group of strange, diverse mix of African-American men, what happens before they get to the march.
Yeah.
You know, they're on this contained environment, 72 hours, and people from all different socioeconomic, political backgrounds, and which is a combustible mix, and just see what happens.
Did the march mean anything to you personally?
Oh, very much. I was deeply inspired by the march. At the same time, I had to see it on television because
you didn't go.
3 days before, the surgeons removed my patella tendon from my left knee. So I was on crutches, but I watched it on TV, and
I hope
it was
you did something heroic when you injured that tendon.
Well, actually, not to digress, but I injured it in the Dodgers fantasy baseball camp when I was doing research for the Jackie Robinson project.
All right, back to the story. So you couldn't, you had an injured tendon, and so you couldn't go, so you watched it on television.
Right.
And you were moved because?
I was moved because to just see this sea of black males who were united. Strangers hugging each other. People I never saw before hug them like they were their brothers. No violence, no drugs, no alcohol, just to see the commitment and the strength on the screen. And it was funny because you had that, what the commentators were saying was different than what you were seeing on the screen. And no matter how they tried to knock it by saying only 250,000 were there and focusing on Farrakhan, stuff like that, the pictures, the images were still too powerful, and it just abolished all the negative spin they tried to put on it.
Yeah, I mean, to see the interviews with the fathers and their sons, you know, I mean, which is the most powerful sense of what fathers talked about in terms of responsibility. And the men who came there, you know, who had no real connection with Louis Farrakhan or any other particular black leader, but who wanted to come there as a statement about themselves and their values and to say, we stand for something else.
I mean, I think that's where the media tried to trip people up by focusing on Minister Farrakhan. You know, he must be given his respect because he's the one to call for this, and I don't think there's any other black leader who could have gathered 1 million plus men today in the United States of America. But despite that, everybody there was not there just for Minister Farrakhan. It was bigger than that. It was about, you know, African-American males.
You can speak to this much better than I can. I don't think most of them were there because of Farrakhan. I mean, I don't understand. I know it's true, and other people said that. And he, in fact, said it. Look, I mean, you know, I did it. You know, God wanted me to do this.
Right.
What is it about him that enabled him to do this?
Well,
and why could he only do this? Because the idea was very powerful.
Well, that's a hard question to answer, but I could say in all my heart that if Colin Powell had called for this march, very few people would have showed up for that. And it was interesting because he was commenting on the march. He said, I like the ideal, but I don't like who came up with the idea. Well, someone should ask him, how come you didn't come with the idea?
Yeah.
You know, but he's not thinking like that. Let's talk about the movie, please.
I could tell you were getting a little nervous there. All right, get on the bus. Let's take a look at this. Set it up. I mean, the idea is what happens to people who are going to the million.
Yes, we have 12 individuals who board a bus in South Central Los Angeles.
Right.
Total strangers, and they're making a 3,000-mile trip, 72-hour long trip across this country, across the United States of America to Washington, D.C. And we have a father and son tethered together.
Right.
A police cop, a cop, a gay couple. Ozzie Davis plays a very distinguished old man who is on the bus because he's sorry he didn't go to Washington for the March on Washington back in 1963.
To hear King.
To hear King, for fear of losing his job.
Script was written by?
Reggie Blackwood. Reggie, he's one of the head writers on New York Undercover.
And why'd you get him to do it?
He's a great writer, and he's quick too. And he went to the march.
And he went to the march. You know,
Yes.
He gave it to you in 3 months or something?
No, it was under 2 months,
Under
the first
2 months
draft.
for
Yes,
first draft?
we shot this film in 18 days.
Do you rewrite your scripts a lot for films you do?
Oh yes, the scripts are just really a blueprint and
As a starting point.
Starting point.
Okay. Set this up. This is where the man's giving instructions that if you want to be on the bus to the Million Man March.
Yes, this is Charles Dutton, who
Dutton. I love
most of you know from
you bet.
his series Rock
and from August Wilson.
and August Wilson, Ma Rainey, and The Piano Lesson.
Right. Roll tape. Here it is. Ozzie Davis.
Right.
You said to me as we were watching him, he's the epitome of the artist activist.
Right.
Meaning?
He's one who's been able to use his art to champion the cause, you know, the movement. Ozzie was rubbing elbows with Paul Robeson gave Malcolm's eulogy, knew Malcolm very well, knew
Was caught, actually was caught in terms of the split between Malcolm and,
yes,
as you know better than I do, Malcolm and Martin.
Tried to be the mediator.
Right.
Knew Dr. King, and he's always tried to use his art to, you know, for our people.
Is that part of what resonates with you and what you want to do?
Well, it really depends on the film, because I think because of, really, as you know, people like to box you in and try to label you. And because the films Do the Right Thing, Jungle Fever, Malcolm X, now you could probably get on the bus. You know, Spike is a filmmaker whose films only deal with black issues.
Who has an agenda.
And the agenda, and his films just deal with racism in America.
Right.
Now, that is true of those films, but I've done other films that issue doesn't even come up. And furthermore, those aren't the only type of films I want to do. I want to do movies about sports. I want to do musicals. I love to do a Western. You know, so my range of stuff I want to do is varied.
Could you be? What was the last film you made before this?
Girl Sex.
Oh, that's right. And before that was what?
Clockers.
Clockers. Well, Clockers is a perfect example. I mean, there was a film you weren't even scheduled to be the director.
Right.
You came into it after, was it Scorsese bowed out to go do something else. I forgot.
Casino.
To do Casino. Are you likely to be hired by some traditional movie that's being made by some studio out there saying, let's get Spike to do this, he's a good filmmaker, let's get him to tell this story? Is that likely to happen, or is Spike not even considered, because everybody knows Spike is out there wanting to do his thing, period?
No, I get asked to do stuff, and most of the time I turn it down.
Because?
The material has no interest to me.
So you want to make the kind of films you want to make. And
yes, and
you're not interested in achieving some other kind of status some other place.
Not really, and I'm not going to complain, because until Jackie Robinson, every film I ever wanted to make, I made, and that's very rare. And, you know, I've done, Get on the Bus is the 10th film I've done, and, you know, in this, my first decade as a filmmaker. So I've made a film a year, and so we're proud of that.
All right, take a look at this. We're gonna promote this film, aren't we?
Let's try.
Let's try. You used to gangbang. This is a man speaking about his bloody childhood as a gang member. Take a look. There's also a character in this film, I'm told, you know, who wears a bow tie. And you expect there to be some payoff from this character. Doesn't happen.
Why should there be?
I don't know. I'm just asking.
Where'd you read that at?
I was told that.
See, you got to see the movies now.
Well, I couldn't see this movie. If you knew what I had to do today, I would have liked to have seen it.
I know.
You know.
I know.
So tell me about it. I mean, was there a reason that?
Well, this is a low-budget film, so we'd had to have some extras on the bus who didn't speak, so he was one of those people.
What did you think of Simpson Trial? I had Johnny Cochran on.
Yeah.
A show that, an hour we did a show together. Interesting guy. What did you think of the Simpson verdict?
What was amazing to me was to see white Americans react to the verdict, and like all of a sudden, the American judicial system had to be overhauled.
Because they didn't like the verdict.
Because they didn't like the verdict. Forget about all the injustice that's been done up to this point in the history of this country. But because there's one incident, the whole judicial system has to be thrown out.
Did you, for a moment, looking at that entire experience and the reaction to that verdict, say there's a movie there somewhere that I'd like to make?
No.
Nothing. You didn't want to touch it? To what?
You know, Charlie, either I want to do a movie about a subject matter or I don't. It's something it's a feeling I have, and I just didn't have it for that film.
What do you think the self-image of Spike Lee is? I mean, what do you think the image of Spike Lee is? And how does it vary from your self-image?
Well, to tell you the truth, I don't really care anymore, because I'm really past the point of I've done 10 films, and I'm really past the point of telling white America I don't hate white people and telling people with the Jewish religion. I'm not anti-Semitic and I'm not anti-white. You know, I'm past that. And, you know, people are going to have their own perception. They want to do it, and the media's going to try to paint you the way they want. You know, and for me, the most damaging thing was that Esquire, during when Malcolm X was coming out, they had me on the cover of Esquire, and the title of the article was "Spike Lee Hates Your Cracker Ass." And the way they positioned it was like those, if you read that, you would think that was a quote, that those words actually came out of my mouth.
It was some headline writer or a cover story writer.
Hmm?
It was some writer who put a cover to sell
It was
magazines.
the editor that did that.
The editor of Esquire at that time.
Yeah. You know. So, you know, somebody sees the article, why would they want to, if they believe I said that, why would they even want to see my films?
Is it a kind of resignation saying, you know, you can't fight it, you can't do anything about it, people are going to believe what they want to believe, I'm going to live my life, I know who I am, I know...
I wouldn't use the word, I don't think I would use the word resignation.
Oh, you don't like that word anyway, because it looks like you're passive, and you don't want to be passive.
No, the thing is that I have too many things I want to do.
Like what?
I want to make films, you know, I want to have a bigger family. You know, I can't worry about what other people think all the time, or that detracts you from what you have to do. I really believe I was put on this earth to make films, and so that's what I'm going to do. And all the other stuff, you know, I don't have time nor the energy. You know, we're only here on this earth, you know, so much, so I'm not going to waste precious moments worrying about that stuff.
And you believe you're doing exactly what you should be doing?
I believe it wholeheartedly.
I do too. Yeah. Get on the Bus is a film. Spike Lee is a guest. We'll be right back. Stay with us.